Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for joining me today, and welcome to the Weekly Roar. I'm Greg Storch, owner of Lion Enterprise, host of the Weekly Roar, and the founder of a worldwide barter coaching program called The Helping Hand. I am a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. I am super excited to start another year of leadership and self-development mini lessons. Now, my plan for 2022 is to continue to deliver leadership topics in an efficient and relatable way. That means you may see a few different things this year when it comes to the Weekly Roar. So what do you say we get started with the first chat of 2022? Ready? Let's do this. Today's Weekly Roar is called When Being Wrong is Right. It's a quick chat about why it's important for leaders to admit when they're wrong. Just the other night, my wife and I were having dinner with another couple. And during one of the discussions at the table, we got on the topic of reflection and why some leaders find it hard to do. My friend said, reflection's important, but not many leaders want to do it because they're afraid to see where they failed to meet their goals. I thought that was an interesting perspective, but it really is true. You want to know why? It's because when people assume positions of leadership, they understand the responsibility that they have to others. And unfortunately, one of the burdens that we create for ourselves as leaders is the added pressure of trying to be infallible or perfect. Now, here's the deal. Now, listen to this. Leaders are only human. We all make mistakes. Perfection doesn't exist. It's a concept that we've made up in our own minds. And the same thing goes for our followers, right? They're only human. We all make mistakes. So if you're leading people in a company, or you're the leader of your family, or in your community, wherever you're leading, think about how your followers feel if they see you trying to be perfect all the time. They can't relate to you. They can't relate because they aren't perfect themselves. If we don't recognize our failures, where we went wrong, and talk about them, we can give off this impression to others that we're perfect. And when a leader gives the impression that they're perfect, that's when they become unrelatable to their followers. I'm here to tell you that it's okay to be imperfect in leadership. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to make mistakes. Not only make them, but learn from them and share them with others. I always say that leadership is influence. And if you want to influence your followers, you have to be relatable to them. Here's another thing. Leaders tend to have this belief that they have to have all the answers because if they don't, they're going to let their followers down, aren't they? And if they let them down, then they've just made a huge mistake, and you aren't supposed to make mistakes. So now you think you're coming off as a weak leader, and that's going to lead to a loss of respect. And a loss of respect can mean a loss of your authority. It's a big snowball effect that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I want you today to challenge those beliefs. It's BS, your belief system. And if that's what your belief system is telling you, it's failing you miserably because nothing could be further from the truth. The real challenge we face as leaders who want to be everything to our followers is that, of course, we're human. We make mistakes all the time. Everybody does. But the best people, the best leaders learn from those mistakes. Great leaders also admit when they've made mistakes. So what I want to do is help you change that mindset. If what I just said sounds like you, then let me help you change that BS, because I'm here to tell you that when we can learn to accept our imperfections and can admit our mistakes, we can actually strengthen our leadership, not weaken it. Here's why. When we admit our mistakes, and Lord knows that I'm not done making my fair share of them, it gives us the permission to move ahead. A lot of times when a mistake gets made, what happens? You know, time gets wasted on trying to figure out who or what is to blame instead of focusing on the problem. We just love focusing on blame, don't we? As soon as you realize you made a mistake, admit it, fess up, come clean immediately. When we do that, it eliminates spending energy playing the blame game, and it allows everyone on your team to focus on the solution instead of the problem. Well, here's another shift that you can make in your belief system, and that's to stop thinking you'll lose respect when you make a mistake. The truth is, when it comes to our leadership, we gain respect when we admit to our shortcomings, those mistakes we've made and the failures we've experienced. Leaders lead by example. They mirror the behavior they expect to see from their followers. That's the law of modeling. What would you want your employees to do? What would you want your children to do? How about your neighbors in the community you're leading? What would you want them to do when they've made a mistake? Well, if it were me, I would want them to admit their mistake and take the actions necessary to correct it as quickly as they can. As the leader, when we're first to admit a mistake and take the steps to correct it, we earn the trust of the people we're leading. And you know what I've said about having trust in leadership. It is the foundation upon which our leadership is built. Now, I think you and I both know that we're the hardest on ourselves. We have a pretty high bar set for ourselves, don't we? We have set these glorious expectations for ourselves. Well, what happens is that we can be so hard on ourselves that we're ashamed to admit we've done something wrong. But nobody expects you to be anything but human. Well, nobody but you, of course, and humans aren't perfect. So remember this, leaders. When we admit to our imperfections, we're going to see that most people are willing to forgive that. Why? Because they aren't perfect either. When we acknowledge our mistakes, we then have this mistake that we've made that we can actually look at and reflect on and then take away the lesson from it. Learning from mistakes is how we grow as leaders. See, leaders are learners. They're constantly growing, and our growth results in the growth of our followers. When we learn something from our mistake, we now have a teaching point, don't we? Teaching others based on our mistakes is a critical piece in thought leadership. You know, back in my days of IT program management, I used to have a mantra that I taught to all my managers across the contract. Whenever something would go wrong or we'd make a mistake, we'd ask ourselves, what do I know? Who needs to know it? And have I told them? Admitting your mistakes to those immediately concerned is one thing, but making them public, that's something completely different. But leaders who are brave and transparent are helping others to learn from their mistakes. When we can do that in our own leadership, we become a resource with wisdom to share. That's how we become thought leaders in our own areas of expertise, because great leaders do admit their mistakes. Over the years, I've met some really great leaders, and I think all of them would openly admit that they've all made mistakes along the way. I believe they would also tell me that it was critical to reflect on those bad decisions in order to learn an invaluable lesson, and how it taught them to see opportunities in everything and anticipate the unexpected more quickly. Now, I hope today encourage you to not feel the pressure of trying to be the perfect leader. We're only human, and we will make mistakes. What we do with them is the key to our leadership success. Remember this: successful leaders are transparent enough with themselves and others to admit their mistakes so that those around them can also benefit from it. This is where leaders gain their wisdom over the years. And unfortunately, a lot of leaders have found themselves lacking that wisdom because they're simply too proud to recognize mistakes as valuable learning moments for themselves and for others. I'm going to leave you with this great quote. The biggest mistake a leader can make is being afraid to make one. All right, friends, that's it for today. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. So please feel free to comment below and share your thoughts with the others in the Lion's Den. And until we meet again, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.